Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Delicately Wild. We have Matthew in the house. Welcome, Matthew. Before we go on, I forgot to tell you, but I'm going to go into a solar power mantra. It's just an opening that I've been doing with some of the participants on the show. And from there, I will sing the tones of creation. You're welcome to put your microphone on mute when I sing that so that there's no distortion. And then we'll begin. Cool, everybody. I hope you enjoy the show, and I hope you have been enjoying the other aspects of what we've been bringing through with the other participants. So taking a deep breath in, just really dropping into the heart. Oh, letting it all out. Right. We are God, we are sovereign, and we are free. We are divine conditional love. We are unity. We are divine purity. We are divine innocence. We are divine effortlessness, grace, and harmlessness. We are divine peace. We are the 12-12 masculine rod and the 13-13 feminine staff, fully restored and embodied now. We are the sacred marriage, fully restored and embodied now. We are Hieros Gammas, fully restored and embodied now. We are the divine mother, father, and Christed eternal child, fully restored and embodied now. We are the Holy Trinity, fully restored and embodied now. We are the diamond, emerald, crystal heart, fully restored, activated, and ignited now. 12, 12, 12, sphere align, connect, unify, and harmonize. Anchor, seal, unlock, and radiate throughout all stations of identity, past, present, future, and parallel. Anchor, seal, unlock, and radiate throughout all of creation, for the highest good of all families and all kingdoms. So it be, and forever shall it be. Aho, shalom, namaste, I am, we are, Ubuntu. Kristalla. Kristalla. Just going to sing the tones of creation now. It's basically in the tone of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, la. Karaya sa taha la Karaya Sata Hala Karaya Sata Hala. Taking a deep breath in. Welcome, Matthew. Beautiful. So we've kind of been beginning the show. This is like a let's chill out. Imagine we're smoking a joint, having a coffee or tea break with each other. And ultimately, we are sharing our stories of ascension, our stories of awakening, the way we differ in thought to others, the way we come together as tribe with one another in similar ways, how you met me, etc., etc. So, and you're welcome to start at any point in your life, that which you feel is relevant to that which you call your awakening or your ascension process. Please do share.
Yeah, so just share about path and meeting you and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, where to begin? Okay, well, first we met at I think Retreat Yourself for the first time for a shamanic breath work.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the intro to the work you do and your energy. And that was obviously it's at an event. It's a little bit all over the place, but definitely dived into a lot that was going on for me, and then chatted to you a bit after, and then I came for another breathwork session in private, which we managed to dive a little bit deeper. It was I could prepare for it properly. It wasn't in a party environment. My journey, I guess, has been kind of all over. Over time, I've just kind of dabbled with psychedelics, and they kind of allow you to start thinking a bit differently, start understanding the world a bit differently, and realizing that there's a lot more out there than the boxes that we've been confined to, and that we grow up thinking within. So yeah, I've had many different experiences that have not really made sense to me, or that tap into or connect to something else that I'm not quite sure of. And then meeting you and hearing the way you talk about these topics put a lot of thoughts and concepts into place for me, and kind of started helping me dive into understanding the type of energies and the type of entities that I've been meeting or interacting with, and engaging with, and just having this deep desire to keep learning and to keep understanding, and trying to live in the way that's most conducive to increasing those relationships, and increasing my understanding of our purpose here and what we're doing, and like what's actually going on around us, and not just this veil or this simple view that we think the world is just what's here and what we can simply see.
Yeah, so I mean, extending into that, what is your belief system about reality and what is happening here? And by the way, if I haven't loaded the other videos yet, I've loaded one, but they've been amazing. But we kind of go quite deep in this space, so please don't feel afraid to move into any topics that you feel might be a trigger, or that they may be topics that you've only kind of worked with in your mental body but haven't really shared because you've been afraid to. I really welcome going deep, chatting about shadow aspects. So please don't be afraid.
Sure. I don't really know where to begin. I guess I definitely do believe that there are multiple levels to dimensions to the reality we are experiencing, and we experience just a physical one here. I have had moments where I've entered this almost this state where it's just a visual aspect, and I feel like I'm not really in this container anymore. And so I know that there are other dimensions or other realms that we have access to and that exist, and that there are entities living there, and that they come and interact with us in to the depth of which they go, and to their names and all that. I'm not quite sure. I definitely hold the belief system that all current religions are just an interpretation of the same thing. They all interact with the same entities, but name them something different, and have a different understanding of them. Yet the core basis of it is all the same, or all rooted in the same kind of knowledge. And so, yeah, I believe religion as a whole has just distorted that to get its own or to fill its own needs. But I'm very much wanting to dive into making my own perception of it, and learning from experience, and getting my understanding purely from experience, and not from what I've been taught or what's written in a book or whatnot. And I find psychedelics have definitely helped with that. And yeah, I guess I truly believe music plays a big part. I very much am a proponent for dance and music and getting into a flow state through music to be able to move out of this container that we're in and move into a state where we can connect with everyone around us that's dancing with us or whatnot and you. So I do feel that that's not the easiest, but the most, like, one of the most accessible ways that the collective can start having these experiences and start realizing that there's a little bit more, because and unfortunately dance and music has been very distorted. It's been very much programmed into forcing us down certain paths or certain channels or thought patterns. Yet I find a lot of music nowadays coming out is starting to move away from that and starting to allow your brain to kind of go on a path that gets it to stop thinking and to just get into this meditative flow state of listening and reacting, or not reacting, but moving based on what you're hearing and not what you think you're hearing and need to move. And so trying to push that is definitely one of my kind of goals in life, and promoting musicians that are creating music that enables that type of experience.
Beautiful. That's a really interesting topic to chat about and move into, because the music allows us to move into the body. So even though you've described it as provides us with the opportunity to step out of the container, it's actually into the container, it's in the body, but what it's doing is moving energy, because ultimately the foundational teaching is that everything is energy, right? And so when we begin to move the body, the container that we step out of is the mind. And I think that's what you're alluding to, is
the thinking part.
Correct. Yet you've simultaneously said, when we're listening to something, we are in a response mechanism to that which we are listening to. And really, actually, we could have the discussion, is listening part of a mental, is actual listening part of a mental process? Because I think many people are listening, or they say they'll be listening to the music, but their minds are somewhere completely different. So they're still in the mental body. And I think what you're alluding to is, are you actually listening to this stream of sin waves and allowing that stream of wave technology to move through you and allow you to move your body, and therefore be in an embodied process, which is obviously going to increase your heart rate, bring you to breath, and really just drop into your body and allow the ego to disappear. So I guess at this point, I'd say, if this is a passion of yours, what sort of genres of music are you alluding to in your passion space?
In my passion space, definitely it's a form of like psychedelic techno. So techno that has that same type of flow, but a lot of psychedelic elements that allow your brain to kind of flow and play with it. So yeah, it's a lot of play, a lot of all over elements, but also very much enjoying down tempo lately, which it's a lot more spacious, a lot more slower, and so you're giving your brain a bit more time to be able to understand what it's hearing and react to it, and move to it, and not just getting in a monotonous rhythm of this is what I've been hearing and this is what I'm going to be hearing, but it's always morphing and changing, and so you have you don't need to be super in tune to be able to pick up on the variances and be able to actually react to those variances.
And I mean, have you ever done an ecstatic dance?
Yes.
Okay.
I have done quite a few. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I did one at Boom as well.
Oh, wow. That must have been amazing.
Yeah.
Although, was it this year?
Yes.
Okay. How was the temperature this year compared to last year?
I felt a little bit cooler, but with the lake there, the temperature doesn't really bother me too much. I'm just in and
Okay.
out of the water, and that cools me down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think ecstatic dance is such an interesting therapy to me. One of the most, I mean, there's so many things that can get you out of the mind, but ecstatic
Yeah.
dance is such a direct route. And what I love about it is nobody, well, at certain ecstatic dances, at Boom, it's obviously an open space. You enter the space, you could be on psychedelics, you could be sober, but a lot of ecstatic dance containers are held as sober containers. There's no
Yeah.
alcohol, no drug use. And to me, it's the most fascinating thing, because when I was in Thailand, as I was trying to do some breath work there, et cetera, and my breathwork prices are almost double what people are charging on the island. And I couldn't give a shit, because I know what I serve. I know the ceremony space that I create. I'm working with quantum physics, quantum mechanics, with entities or energies or dimensional structures, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not just your regular breathwork facilitator. And so I kind of began to get some slack from other facilitators on the island. They were getting this like a bit of like jealousy or whatever it was. It doesn't matter. The point is, because have you been to Copenhagen at all?
No, not yet. It's
Okay.
high on my list though.
Yeah, so I mean, I can imagine. So it's basically, this real healing island. So it's like just like a massive festival, basically a healing festival on an island, right?
Yeah.
And by festival I mean healing modalities everywhere, left, right, and center. So the point I'm trying to make is, it's like feeling this resistance of people can go so easily to get A, B, C, and D, yet my pricing is in a different range. And you know me, I like to work with forms and documents
Yeah.
and get people to really consent with regards to what they're going to step into. And so there's this resistance always, instead of having 25 people, I may only get 15 people, whatever the case may be. And so I'm watching this because I'm always observing the reality. But simultaneously, within the space of ecstatic dance, the price like shifts by almost double or more than double in high season, and that place is packed. Like it is
Yeah.
packed, and actually too packed where you can't dance ecstatically. So it's packed like a club would be. So the club is just a normal, you're kind of in that rhythmic space of you're not really moving your body.
Yeah.
And so that was frustrating for me, and also interesting of like how we follow trends, and how we have a more potentiality for meeting of different sexes, or this there's just more of an excitement around ecstatic dance, whereas the shamanic breathwork is work. And here
Yeah.
they've doubled the price for a 3-hour session. And if you calculate the price out in Rand value, those of you that are South African listeners, if you calculate that price out in Rand value, it's more than you would pay for a club, right? It's kind of like a ticket to a festival for a weekend, a little festival to a weekend. Yet that place is full. There's no alcohol, no drugs. And I'm just like, this is fascinating to me. So it's like, how we choose and pick what we want to do, and how we create stories with pricing models of things. It's just interesting to me, because I'm interested in the human mind, the human psyche, decision making, discernment, cognitive dissonance, all of these things. And speaking back to your genre of music that is your passion play, your creative space of psychedelic techno. How many people what percentage of people do you feel go into that music solidly feeling comfortable without taking any psychedelics? Like, what's your viewpoint on that?
I think quite a bit. I think the music isn't necessarily requiring psychedelics. You can maybe hear what's happening a little bit more clearly if you are on a psychedelic or have smoked or something like that. The elements stand out a bit more. But the enjoyment for your mind, the melodies, the the actual musical part of the tracks is still very prevalent, even if you are sober.
Have you ever sat and done like a 2-hour meditation to a psychedelic set?
Yes, I do that quite often.
Beautiful. Is that in a home space or
Mostly at my home space?
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe when I'm getting sometimes it can be on a substance or without. I sometimes do solo mushroom journeys, and then when I come out of that, I would sit and listen to music, or even during the actual journey, I would put on a 4 or 5 hour sets that would just run instead of trying to do a playlist or trying to follow some other someone that's created music specifically for it. I found some sets go quite nicely with taking you through the psychedelic journey. And it's definitely something I want to explore, is actually curating a journey type of set with this music. But can also be in a sober setting, and actually sitting and listening to the music. I really enjoy the concept of dancing with my energetic body. So sitting in meditation, but still dancing in the mind.
Yeah, so I used to do that a lot at festivals, much smaller festivals where a lot of people knew me, but I would sit at the midnight to 2 a.m. kind of set, and be on my mushrooms and just sit in the middle of the dance floor and go into meditation for that 2 hours. It was like one of my favorite ways to explore the dance floor. And I think you've seen me on a dance floor before. I do like to dance and I do like to move. So yeah, that's one of my favorites. And actually in the AZURITE Temple, perhaps because this is a co-creation space, maybe we'll set something out where we can listen to one of your sets. I'm assuming you are the creator of them. Listen to one of your sets and I will guide you guys into a training session with meditation.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Often I take a break from the dance floor and go sit on the side and have like a short 10 minutes kind of breather meditation, just to resettle and actually listen to the music. But yeah, that would be amazing. It's definitely something I want to explore. And I've got friends that also do visual arts, and creating a visual journey along with it is like the end goal, because I think the visual aspect plays a big role, and we can use the visual aspect to kind of not ignite, but kind of trigger certain psychedelic states or reactions or things like that. It kind of just helps you, just like music can help you enter have certain experiences. The visual aspect can also, a lot of it I do closed eye, but I do know that having some visual stimulus is also can be quite important, have quite an impact.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I was once at a festival where they had 3D mapping, like like on steroids. I've never seen anything like it, but I kind of stayed away from the stage that night, because what begins to happen is, and I've done this experiment before, watching if people are listening or watching, and it seems to be that the visual space takes over. And so the dance floor actually becomes very still and kind of like a trance space. So for a dance floor space, I feel like it's a little, one has to be careful with overstimulation in the visual departments.
Definitely.
But if you are creating course material that is workshop orientated around a specific teaching or something, then of course. And then of course we've got light codes, I mean, you know what light language is, right? And so we've got light codes,
basic understanding.
Yes, so if we've got light codes coming through with that visual, that 3D mapping, that to me would be like, that's where the power sits, because
exactly.
what we're doing at the moment, and by we I mean those of us light workers and shadow workers that would fall under some sort of label of guardian without trying to label it, but we would call ourselves guardians. But really what we're doing is correcting geometries. And within the visual space, particularly with artificial, I mean, these are created through like intelligence programs, right?
Yeah.
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 So a lot of it. Yeah. So this is really interesting because we're in the time of AI. And I'd love your thoughts about this, because you're a youngster. So to me, youngsters are always like, okay, we've got this kind of tech savvy gene within us, right? But when you're doing visual arts like that, and it's very much generated through AI, majority of it, we then have to really ask ourselves what geometries are coming in and how they are affecting the crystalline blueprint of our bodies. So like you say, that energetic is dancing, but what is it doing? So if you have like a water molecule, right, and you're singing it, you're singing it peace chants or chants, it's just going to be this like beautiful, perfect, crystalline template of God source energy. But when we're using graphics like that from AI generation, research would be really interesting surrounding this, of what happens to the cells. I don't know if you have any kind of bigger, deeper thoughts around that.
I think the thoughts have really come down to the prompts and the inputs you are providing. I think AI generated content has a lot of potential to take out the mundane parts of creating mediums and content. And if you can figure out the right inputs to give it to create the correct geometries, to create the correct patterns that do bring the effect that we're wanting, the impact, the realignment, or whatever that we're looking for. If we can figure out kind of a blueprint for how that can be generated, we can use AI to create some really cool content. I mean, not everything these days is created with it. A lot of it is, maybe AI is like the step ahead, but a lot of it is mainly just rules. And you define the geometry, you define the patterns and how the pattern evolves, but there's a bit of randomness involved that causes it to then not be a consistent same loop. It will constantly changes on each time. So you'll never get the same. Each sequence is slightly different because there's a bit of randomness in. But I guess AI will come in where that randomness can be exaggerated a bit with tweaking certain parameters at random as well. But I don't think it's something you can just throw a general rule on and it's going to create you content that's going to be effective. You would need to spend time diving into what parameters can be tweaked, how they should be tweaked, what's the base kind of model that you're going to be using to create the content.
Yeah, because the reason, so when we speak about these kind of things, my mind goes deep into quantum space, right? So for example's sake, it's like if we're teaching the law of one, everything is one. So anything, any input instruction into sequencing is a creation, right? It's a creation somewhere in the field, whether it be through music or through arts or through AI or through drawing, through play, through dance. It's a sequencing that is coming into the quantum field. And so I think we're really, I think what's interesting about what you've said is really having the conversations with ourselves about how does creation work? And so really understanding what the quantum field is, because when we begin on Saturday with the AZURITE Temple, what we're doing is commanding the space. So we will be setting a set of sequences and instructions into the quantum field in order to create this container, this sacred space, so that we know we are safe from artificial intelligence, actually.
Yeah.
Right. So this is really, really interesting. In yesterday's interview, we were chatting about humanoid AI robots, right? And now we've come to the visual art side, the psychedelic art side. And again, when we've got people who are opening their senses up and watching visual sequences, it's, like, I think the further you expand your level of consciousness, the more you kind of want to hermit away and be like, whew.
Yeah.
With great power comes great responsibility. And although this program that we use for creation, for stimulation, for entertainment is amazing and it's fun and it's this and it's that, we don't actually know quantumly and multidimensionally what viruses, sequences, artificial instruction sets, yes, programming, are coming through here that could actually be super, super destructive to the genetic sequencing of our DNA. So, excuse me, everyone, for going
No, I fully
deep
believe
into,
and understand.
yeah. But I mean, and then the other thing is, and obviously I'm speaking from the basis of festival space here, a lot of people within the psychedelic scene, even DJs and things, are still using a lot of cocaine while creating their psychedelic sets. And it's like, that is a frequency input instruction set in that music. And so, it's to me, I'm like,
I agree.
I don't want to partake in that, and it's such a pity because I think these people are really, really talented, but there's an AI running through that is not organic. It's not organic in nature.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially at festivals, it's something I deal with quite a lot. I spend a lot of time at festivals pretty sober, and those moments where I feel I need to go have a smoke or I need to do something, it's more us just running away from that uncomfortable feeling of
being
being in a
alone.
space, being alone, or being in a space surrounded by a bunch of people and having to just deal with what's going on. And so I guess things like smoking or doing lines or whatnot allows you to kind of focus down on and ignore everything else around, and you kind of start pushing those feelings away. And yeah,
you mean particularly as a DJ and producer?
No, I think in general.
Okay. Yeah.
And I guess maybe lines would come in with the nerves that are felt with being up in front of people and being able to deal with those type of that stimulus and that those feelings, and instead of just facing them and realizing that you're making a choice to be up on the stage, you need to understand that people are going to be watching you. There's going to be these things going on.
That's a very interesting perspective, because
you try to run from it. Yeah.
I'm interested in your perspective, and I'm assuming it's there because within the scene you have had experience with that, maybe for yourself, but through other friends that are on stage, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting to me, because so weird that I would not have thought of that, because to me what I see is performance, those that are comfortable in their spots up there. But again, if the work, the deep transformational work, the inner work is not being done, of course there's a fear frequency moving through. And perhaps, so thank you for that perspective. Thank you for that perspective.
I know personally I would be very happy if DJing was done in a little dark corner.
Yes.
And it's just supplying music to be able to allow people to dance and move and hear things. It's like I'm definitely one of the people that's against the concept of having this high podium that I play
The
music off of.
guru, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, since we've kind of revolved around a festival theme here, I think we may as well stay here. But there's one DJ that she's really cool. She's in Cape Town. I don't know her name, but she covers herself the whole time. So she kind of has like an umbrella in front of her, and I think there's something so mystical about that because she's just in her zone, her channel, right? It's not necessarily a performance. You know, if you're a live acoustic performer, then you're performing. But I think there's so much guru worship with DJs and things, and not to say that they shouldn't be celebrated in their art form, but it's like, you know, when you're at something like Boom and 60,000 people are facing forward, I don't know, it's like, and that's what I love about ecstatic dance is we're moving, we're in and out, and there's kind of this organic flow. And when like 40,000 people are just, or whatever, a stage of 10,000 people are just standing watching, it's I don't know, it's something, it's really interesting. It's disconnected. Yeah, it's disconnected. What are your thoughts, feelings, and theories of with regards to the festival scene and people actually, let's say, one, understanding and respecting psychedelics, and two, doing shadow work? So the reason I say this is obviously, again, the festival scene is the festival scene, and it's a beautiful space to open yourself up, to understand that these molecular structures within us can allow us to think out of the box. Beautiful. But I feel that there's a trap in the festival space where it's just turns into an ego. It's very subtle. You wouldn't ever describe it, because in the festival space, we are in this love and light, and we're feeling free, and we're feeling like hippies, and we can express ourselves and be silly and stay up to all hours of the night and hug anyone and just, you know, and be really open. But when you read further into like negative alien agendas, and you have sort of these constructs that sit within the second and fourth chakras, sort of like implants, I feel the psychedelic space and too much festival life can really move into quite a trap for people.
Yeah, so I definitely feel it can be a distraction, and it is for a lot of people. I think the concept of a party or an escape from general life has always been there for humanity. There's always been something that we've tried to escape to, and maybe a lot of people do use festivals for that. I see the festival space, or what I envision it becoming, is a lot more of a learning environment. So there are a couple events that are doing this. They're having talks, they're having workshops, etc. Yet I feel like it should become more of a focus where during our week we're busy, we've got work, we've got all these commitments, yet a weekend is our time to learn something new, to engage in something new. And festivals, both, they give us a time to dance, which allows us to move energy, allows us to process traumas, things like that. Like I find ecstatic dance, I try and do it in my normal dancing. It's not just something so for that dance should be something where you just let loose. You don't think about how you're moving, you move as wild as you possibly can. But at the same time, doing that brings up a lot. There's things that are maybe brought up, and unless you take time to also integrate and process whatever work you've done on the dance floor by dancing, you're never really going to move through what's happening. You need to have, it needs to be a twofold thing where you also then sit down and spend time with whatever's come up, or just a bit of both, or you spend some time learning some new modality to process whatever you're working through or experiencing. And I think festivals create the perfect container to allow that. We're not quite there, but I think through time we will.
Of course, it's all part of the creation story. Yeah.
And I guess it's also specific festivals at the moment. I mean, you can still go to a certain festivals that you go there, you get drunk and face the stage, and that's all that happens at this event. Because that's all that event is designed to do. It's designed purely to be that distraction for you, or for the attendees. But a lot more festivals are starting to pop up where they are realizing that there's this whole integrated flow and work that can be done in a festival space, where people have their guard down a little bit. The energy of love and connection is a little bit higher, and so I think over time we can build up a focus of, I'm not just going to an event on a weekend to go dance and party and spend time with my friends, but I'm going to an event to also learn something new and watch a few talks and engage in a few workshops or do some breath work. But at the same time, engaging in a breath work ceremony, you can't really do that if you've been doing lines the night before. It's not conducive. So you need to realize that the way that you party and the way that you are engaging with the music or the dance floor also needs to be a little bit more thought out. It can't just be mindless. Conscious, yes, that's the word also. And I think we can slowly get there, but at the same time, there are certain substances, specifically alcohol, cocaine, things like that, that to me we should be trying to minimize the usage of, and the availability of it and the normality of it at an event, because those are the things that bring you out of this state of flow or of being able, like you that will knock you off, and then you won't be able to you won't want to go and watch a talk, you won't want to go and engage in a breathwork ceremony or some sort of
life
workshop.
altering experience.
Exactly.
Where do you kind of see the path of awakening for you heading to? Where does it bring you? I know it's an odd question, a tough one.
I'm not quite sure how to answer, but I'm going to try. I see my path as I'm a heavy Capricorn. I've got 5 placements in Capricorn. And so it's definitely been something I've not wanted to step into, but I feel I do have a lot of people that kind of in my friend group that look to me for advice or things that I've processed or understood or experienced. And I can kind of share that in a way that a lot of that kind of makes sense to a lot of people. I can take a complicated topic and kind of say it in words that make it not seem that complicated. And so I do believe that I have some space in terms of leading there, but at the same time I've always run away from it. I hate being I don't like being seen. I don't like being the center of attention. I don't like putting myself out there. Yet it's in my chart that is what I'm going to struggle with, and I need to move through that and start putting myself out there and start being someone that does share knowledge and shares these concepts. And I want to try and create a future where festivals are these spaces where you're going to learn, and I feel like I can have some impact in creating that, and motivating more people to just follow their own flow at a festival and not just do what they already know and what they've been doing for all the other festivals. Something I do a lot of the events here in Europe, maybe not back home as much, but on my own, where I know pretty much no one.
Yes.
And a thought that has kind of come to me over the last few weekends is what happens is when you're alone, you start actually listening to your instinct a bit more and your intuition of, okay, I'm not really feeling this so much. Let me move somewhere else. So let me go find something else. Let me do this. And it's not influenced by, I need to go to that floor because my friends are there or something. You just like intuitively following your internal guidance and listening to that internal voice saying, no, it's time to move on from here, or go do that, or things like that. And allows you to kind of tap into, that state of flowing from being guided and not from the thought of I need to do this or I need to go and meet them there. And when you get to a dance floor, you look for your friends' totems and you go straight there. It's like feel the space, you like, okay, no, I'm not really feeling here. Let me move 5 meters that way, and
Yes,
you can
you have a
move to where you
freedom.
feel. Yeah,
Yeah, you have a freedom.
and promoting that, because festivals are a space where it's a lot easier to explore on your own.
Mm,
The real world is a lot harder to just go out and walk around alone. And
mm,
um, I mean, everyone I think should travel, like solo travel. I think you
yes,
realize how resilient you are and how much you can actually just figure out on your own and not
yes,
needing other people to assist you to do things.
yes.
But it is a bit harder, and you can learn that in a festival,
Mm.
where you can just explore the space and the environment on your own.
What do you feel the biggest noticeable difference is in the levels of consciousness of that which you have experienced in Europe versus South Africa?
Um, I think I've been very spoilt in terms of the events that I've gone to in Europe. I think there are a lot of events that aren't as good as the ones I've been to, or aren't as um, on trying to actively create spaces where it is free and open to explore, and there's lots of little nooks and crannies that you can go to, and artworks that you can see, and workshops you can attend. And the music is obviously, I'm very selective what I'll go to in terms of music. um, so yeah, I find here in Europe, or most of the events I've been to have been a lot more open and a lot more, um, I guess they draw on a bigger group of people,
Mm,
and the ones that are looking for the same type of experience come
mm,
together. Um, but at the same time, South Africa still has a very good um, set of festival goers. We've
mm,
got a lot of very open-minded people, a lot of people really trying to push um, creating these spaces as well. I guess
mm,
it comes with the heavy use of psychedelics. I mean, I one of the things that I guess got me off drinking is just a repetitive use of mushrooms and things like that. And I slowly started to not want to have alcohol in my system.
mm,
And so maybe as a whole, through the, I mean, the big scene in South Africa is the psytrance scene, and there's a lot of psychedelics involved there. And slowly people are realizing that you can actually just have it a weekend with psychedelics and not need to have the other
mm.
things. Um, so I don't see a massive difference, but there is a bit of a difference. But I think that's purely just because the attendee base, the amount of the people that are pulling towards the festivals is a lot larger, and so
Mm,
if the events I've been to have been a really good collections of people.
mm.
Um, I don't know if that answers the question.
Well, it's interesting because I asked it as an open-ended question with regards to European consciousness versus South African consciousness. And
Mm,
although we've had this festival theme the whole way, you
yeah.
answered based on the festival space. So I guess I'll extend it now and say, outside of festival space, what are the differences you see? So let's say more macrocosmically from an economic, political,
So
social element. What is it that you feel?
I feel like something that's come to me in the last couple of weeks. I definitely feel South Africans don't have freedom. There's an innate freedom that European living kind of provides,
Mm,
where um, children can play in the street without parent supervision. You can just go for a walk. Everyone's chilling in the parks in the afternoon.
mm.
There's random collectives that do pop up salsa dances in the park, and things
Mm,
like that, where growing up in South Africa, I never really had that.
mm,
I never got to experience that. My childhood was growing up between my parents' garden and the four walls, and then driving to a friend's house, and maybe the very close friends I would walk to, but it would be like 500 meters, like
yes,
you would never walk 3 kilometers to go and visit a friend.
yes.
Um, and
It's very much linked around the public transport system. Like
yeah,
we don't,
very,
yeah.
yeah, the public transport definitely does come into it, but also just the freedom, the safety aspect of
Mm,
um, like I often see, I've seen groups of 10 kids playing in the street, playing soccer or something in a block of flats or around some blocks of flats, and there's no parents in sight. It's safe for
Mm.
them to just be there on their own.
Mm.
And then I can take that a step further. And the event I was at this weekend was based on a commune land. And so there were tons of kids there, but these
Mm.
kids were so intelligent. They were so
Self-sufficient.
self-sufficient that, yeah, you would see them on a jetty across the lake, and they would be climbing around there on their own, 4 kids, and then strip down, go for a swim without even thinking twice. Or
Yeah.
um, one of the friend I'm staying at the moment, he was blown away by this one 3-year-old girl. She had just had her 3 year. It was her third birthday. She had a little totem, and one of our other friends was selling essential oils.
Mm.
And this 3-year-old took the essential oils, rubbed it over here, did this, smelt it, did like a little moment to think if she like enjoys it or not, and then
Wow.
like properly went to smell it and was like, no, this is
Mm.
amazing. Ran to her mom and dad and told them how good this oil was. But
Wow.
she had the knowledge to know how to
Mm.
use the oil, how to
Mm.
engage with it. And she's 3 years old. It's like this
Mm.
tiny little person.
Mm.
Where yeah, and it's just because the parents have given them, well, they have freedom on this land to
Mm.
explore and engage and interact and make mistakes and fall
Mm.
on their own, and not be like guarded into the experiences that their parents are allowing them to have.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and obviously you get that in South Africa as well. But that's like the next step up of freedom. I mean, and yeah, I had this deep feeling. I was sitting in Sofia in a park, and just this deep feeling of we kind of not robbed of the freedom to have a childhood and to have this
Mm.
ability to just go and move and do,
Mm.
and go play in the park.
Mm.
And I think it's, yeah, it was a bit of a sad moment for me. So in terms
Yeah.
of that, that's not really the consciousness that I've experienced, but I do think that plays a big part.
Yeah. 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 However,
I
with
think, yeah,
I was going to say, when we bring in topics of agenda, those who will feel it the most are those who have felt more free. So the Europeans, when more and more control comes, and
yeah,
it will carry on, they are
yeah,
the ones that are really going to struggle to deal with the shadow aspects of that. Whereas South
mm,
Africans, we have the resilience. We've been living without electricity. We know how to make
yeah,
fires. We camp. We this. We that. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that Europeans don't know how to make fires and camp and stuff, but you get my point. It's like
yeah,
the government's never really let them down, until 2 years ago, and it's coming back. It's all coming back now, because it must. We have to repeat the test and see how we survive in the test. And I think that's where Europe interests me. And one of the reasons I've come here is to be in this next phase of the agenda coming in and see how people begin to fight for their freedoms or to remain obedient citizens that they have
yeah,
been for the past 100 years.
yeah. Speaking of that, I had an experience a few weekends back. There was a emergency weather warning at a festival, and they came in and shut the music down. Like literally went from full party music off, made an announcement saying you need to leave the venue or leave the grounds, go sit in a car somewhere secure. And the entire German crowd just listened and left and walked off. Where I feel in South Africa, people would
Wow.
have been like, no, I'm not leaving.
No.
Put the music back on. I want music. I paid for a party. Like, I want a
Yeah.
party. And yes, some rain came. It wasn't as intense, but obviously there was the chance of it being super intense and being a struggle to just move around and lightning or whatnot.
Yeah.
But just the level of obedience to follow that warning
Wow.
was crazy. Yeah.
Wow. That's an
No,
interesting experience to have.
yeah. And then it lasted an hour. We all had to, I mean, and then we walked past the main stage, and even over the speakers was a pre-recorded message saying that this is the weather warning, obviously in German. You need to go to your tent or go to a place of safety. A tent is not a safe space. So in other words, going to a car somewhere like secure. And I was just quite blown away by the level of obedience and following that kind of order. Because they cleared the entire festival ground was cleared. There were people walking through, all the food stalls were shut down. Absolutely everything just grinded to a halt within 10 minutes. Everything was cleared.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, that's lovely to know when shit really hits the storm, but when there's a whole bunch of invisibles, because that's what we are being taunted by, is the invisibles. Then it's really messing with free will, etc., etc. So yeah, we really are entering into an extended further period of upheaval and control and magic on the earth. How do you feel about this next phase of what you feel is happening on planet Earth? Are you an expert? I've alluded to some things around the corner. Were you in expectation of that? I'm curious to know.
I definitely do. That's why I'm sitting in this call, is because I want to be a part of helping to facilitate the change in a good way, because I do feel that there is going to be massive shifts coming. The systems that are currently there are going to collapse, and when they collapse, new systems are going to rise. And it's up to us to create a foundation where the new systems, at least for us and the people around us, and hopefully that can extend and keep extending, are good systems. I feel like we have the ability right now. People are waking up to realize that what's currently been happening for the last 100 years, or the way things have been working, isn't the way it's going to be working. It needs to change. Something needs to change. And either it's going to change and get worse, or it's going to change and get better. And the more work we can do, and then by that extension, people can see that and maybe try and imitate or follow along or whatnot. Hopefully we can shift the change in the right direction. I think it's Shaman Durek that calls it the blackout or something that's coming. We just need to kind of get as ready as we can to be able to handle the storm that's coming.
The thing is, what we don't have is a calendar date for these things. I was speaking to someone, she's like, I'm so worried about the next set of COVID and the next of this and the next of that, and apparently there's the event, the solar flash is coming. And I was like, drop all of that. What if I tell you it was all now? It's all happening now. It's all happening simultaneously. We are in the apocalypse as well as in the creation of the new earth, simultaneously in this now moment. It's all now. We're going to be covering a lot of this in the AZURITE Temple. And actually, last night I had the most profound experience. The AZURITES, that aspect of me, so not separate from me, but that aspect of me that is connected to that genetic sequencing, came through, and we received like a full-on blessing for this container. So it was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. It was so beautiful. I'm going to end it there. Thank you, Matthew, for your time. It's been cool chatting. I hope you've enjoyed it. And we will see you on and in the AZURITE Temple. Best of luck to you. Ciao.
Yeah, you too. Ciao. Thank you. Have a great day.